Hi, everyone. My name is Kumar Singh, and I'm a research director with SAPinsider. As you know, in the Technology Brief video series, we interview leading thought leaders and experts in the SAP technology ecosystem and partner ecosystem. Today, we are going to discuss a very unique topic around decision intelligence. But before we get into that topic, I would like to introduce my guest, Dave Henry. So Dave, before we start our discussion, why don't you give our audience a little bit background about yourself and maybe about pyramid analytics that you are representing here in this videos?
Yeah, be glad to. Good to be with you today, Kumar. So I'm responsible for strategic alliances at Pyramid, and those are mainly the partnerships that drive our customer success, enterprise customer success in particular, and revenue growth. I manage a relationship with SAP and AWS. Been doing this a long time, about 2 decades worth of experience in the software industry, 4 different analytics companies, and about 2 years ago joined Pyramid because I believe very much in platform approaches that deliver value across business and IT. And that's really Pyramid's mission, is to bring these communities together, to do so at enterprise scale, and to provide the broad set of functionality that companies need to be successful.
Great. And it's a privilege to have someone with your experience and background with us. So thanks a lot, Dave, for taking time to share some insights with our audience. So like I was mentioning earlier, the topic that we are going to touch upon is decision intelligence. And the reason I think this topic is really critical, very important, and will be insightful for our audience is we have been conducting many research. Last year, we did a couple of research like Future of Business Intelligence in November, and then Analytics in the Cloud. One key thing that keeps on coming up is that many SAP insiders, though they believe that the market has many different analytics tools and solutions, they still feel there is a void somewhere in terms of the kind of analytics tools that are available, right? One aspect that they believe may be lacking in some of the legacy tools that they have is the ability for it to be used by business users across the organization, not just the technical users, but the business users. They're also looking at aspects like enterprise analytics platform, as in like they do not have to have like many different, they do not want to have many different analytics point systems, but would love to have some kind of tool that becomes the single source of analytics for them. And that then again ties back to the aspect that kind of a tool that needs to be used not only by technical users, but also by business users, right? And we touched upon that in our Future of Business Intelligence report, where we recommended that the best way to leverage analytics or enterprise analytics is to kind of have the ability or provide the capability of analytics in the hands of those who work on the front lines of business, the functional and the business people. And that's where the decision intelligence aspect comes into play, an evolved form of business intelligence. So Dave, I think to start with, the first question that I have for you, or our audience would love to know more about, is what exactly is decision intelligence and how is it different from the conventional or legacy business intelligence tools?
I think it's an important topic. So there have been a lot of investments that have been made over the last 3 decades, if you would, in reporting, in data warehousing, in enterprise BI platforms, and self-service, in big data. And what we've seen is tremendous amount of benefit from each one of those waves. I think the challenge, of course, is how do you bring this together for everyone in an organization? So decision intelligence from the Pyramid perspective is about breadth. It's about helping all people, right? In all contexts. It could be interactive self-service. It could be embedded context, as we'll talk about a little bit. It could be out to partners, but it really is combining the best of traditional enterprise analytic platforms with a more modern approach, right? The goal is ultimately to help people use relevant data, make better decisions, faster outcomes, capitalize on opportunities, to correct, problems that exist, to drive innovation. All those things really aren't changed, but the concept here is breadth, and that's technically challenging. You've got to scale. You've got to incorporate all different types of data. You have to be able to work with large data volumes. So all of these challenges that we've inherited over the last 2 or 3 decades are facing us now. Most organizations are struggling with it, even though at the same time, most organizations have started this journey, right? I think that's important. Another distinction is, in the past, we had a producer-consumer model. You'd have analytic producers, content creators, and you'd have passive consumers. What's also different about decision intelligence is that it's very active, very real-time, and very collaborative. So it's not just about looking at something and picking up the phone. It's about interacting with your analytics and connecting with other people, even down to the data point. And that could be real data, real-time data. It could be a snapshot of data. So it's very interactive. That's one of the key characteristics. And then I think, I mentioned a little bit about the partners, right? And I put that broadly. You can think about decision intelligence as something that goes outside of your organizational boundaries. And this is really becoming much more important. Companies are all connected. And we've seen that over the last 3 years in particular. So if you think about, let's take really any example where there's a fast moving supply chain, right? You've got suppliers, you've got buyers. They need to know what's going on. The buyers need to know the real-time inventory levels of the suppliers, and the suppliers need to have insight into variations on consumer demand. And the only way you do this is to take a platform approach, and this is where that collaboration comes in. So again, I would say it's an evolution of what we've been doing. But it's ambitious in that it reaches out across a broad set of environments and use cases and user communities.
Definitely an evolution, and all the aspects that you mentioned, Dave, of that evolution are some of the bottlenecks that SAPinsiders kind of keep on highlighting. And I see when you mentioned about decision intelligence being the evolution, all those evolutionary aspects that you mentioned were the pain points that SAPinsiders kind of highlight in our surveys. So definitely it kind of not only an evolution of business intelligence, but I would say more like a evolution of a new standard of analytics. This could be another aspect or standard of analytics. So from that perspective, you gave us a generic overview of what decision intelligence means for Pyramid, but why don't you walk our audience through some of the key aspects of your specific decision intelligence platform? What are some of the unique features? What are the pain points it addresses before we move further in the discussion?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So one more thing I wanted to mention about decision intelligence, talk just real quickly about the technology. So our perspective is it's a fusion of things. It's a fusion of data preparation, self-service analytics, which tends to be what people see, right? And artificial intelligence that's embedded inside the product. So things like a chat bot, or the ability to look at a specific value and explain it, right? And then there are interfaces into business process management. So it's important to keep this in mind, as we go forward. I think it'll be evident why that's significant. It is also mission critical, right? So it's part of the IT infrastructure. It is a sponsored system, right? A solution, if you would, and it generates system of record artifacts. So just a little more background there. So turning to Pyramid specifically, and SAP. So our customers, all of our customers, in particular our SAP customers, they've made enormous investments of time and money in SAP. And look, the majority plan to continue investing well into the future. We don't see major changes there. What do they want to do? They want to modernize analytics. They want to get more value out of their existing SAP landscapes. This is true across all industries, right? It doesn't matter if it's retail, consumer packaged goods, manufacturing, healthcare, financial services, keep going, right? We see this desire, and we help with that. I mean, so if someone's focused just on improving their use of SAP through Pyramid, we can bring what we feel is a world-class experience to their use of SAP, right? And then also these additional benefits of decision intelligence. But I want to highlight something else that I see very consistently, and it's kind of a sweet spot for Pyramid. So customers have what I call an SAP Plus challenge, right? So they have SAP Plus, they want to do other things, right? They certainly want to access the power of BW and HANA directly. They don't want to extract data. But at the same time, they need to integrate external data sources. They also want to leverage machine learning. They want to leverage the scalability of the cloud environment. And so this typically drives them to adopt a data lake in addition to their SAP landscape. So we see these things consistently. And I'll give you some examples a little bit later. What they really want is they want their experience, their analytics experience, their collaboration, everything they're doing as they move forward to be powerful and consistent across both these environments, both SAP and data lakes, modern data stack. There's different words for it, but it's an SAP Plus challenge that drive them to come to talk to us. So we help them do that in three ways. First, and this is critical, is SAP itself. So we deeply exploit the native capabilities of HANA, BW for HANA, and we use a direct query model, right? We don't rely on extraction. Equally important, we support the specialized features of BW. BW is known for its power, right? But that also leads to things that are very specific to BW, like measure formatting, time-dependent hierarchies, alternate hierarchy captions, cascading parameters, and then over in HANA, you've got specific features like calculation views, right? So we've gone to great pains, and I mean great pains, to exploit those, to be compatible with them. You know, it's a certified product against BW and HANA, also Sybase IQ, right? So we feel like we've got a lot of depth first in SAP. And the direct query, right? This ensures outstanding performance, right? One of the other reasons customers look towards us is they're having performance challenges and we can help them. But at the same time, supporting those features allows companies to preserve the business logic and also to enforce, governance and security. Secondly, we give analysts the flexibility of loading data, external data, right, into HANA or into data lakes or into analytical databases such as Redshift and Snowflake. So you can think about a situation where you want to bring external data as a business analyst, load it directly into HANA, you can do that. If it makes more sense for your use case that you do that in Redshift, we can help you do that as well. And we even have some interesting capabilities of connecting simultaneously to BW or HANA, as well as a modern, analytical database in the cloud. And that gives people a lot of flexibility. And it also minimizes the amount of retraining you have to do with your customers, your users. They can learn one interface and they'll find that experience translates really nicely, whatever the underlying data source is. And so finally, data science, right? It is here. People are doing it. It has been cast as a very specialized discipline, and it is, right? At the same time, businesses get the most value out of data science investments when they get business analysts involved. So let's go back to that collaboration piece I was talking about. It's important to bring business analysts into the development and even into the deployment of machine learning models. And this is something Pyramid does really well. So you can have a data scientist working in R, working in Python, working in other environments. Maybe they're working with something like AWS Forecast, right? They can do their work, but that work can be incorporated into pyramids. So we can see the immediate effects of a model and analyze the results, right? Equally important, before the model ever gets trained, the SAP analyst can help identify, again, looking at it through a business lens, the data in SAP that needs to go into that model. So there's just great opportunities to collaborate on data science. So those are really the things that I think make Pyramid powerful for SAP customers.
Definitely. And I think as you walk through, that was very comprehensive overview, by the way, Dave. And as you walk through the three different aspects, I think it kind of helps SAP Insider. A tool like this would help SAP Insiders to leverage the maximum value out of their SAP investment, right? So on one hand, they can actually leverage their existing SAP infrastructure optimally in basically integrating it with this kind of a tool. Then the second aspect you mentioned was using the same tool as basically creating kind of a more like a link with cloud platforms or cloud technologies like you mentioned Redshift or Snowflake. And then the third aspect of leveraging data science. So I think it kind of very beautifully helps. A tool like this would help end users kind of get the full benefit out of the data that resides in their SAP system and still leverage the best of kind of other worlds or both worlds, as you can say, the cloud aspects and data science and their SAP infrastructure investment. So again, a great overview, and I think highlights a very important point for many SAP insiders, because when they're thinking about investing in this kind of a technology, a question that they always have is, I have already invested in SAP, like it's a big investment. So how is it like going to make something redundant? But the fact is, I mean, an investment made wisely, a tool like this would actually help them enhance their investment in many different ways. So again, a great overview, really insightful. So that brings me to the next question. We already talked about kind of the key role this tool can play to help maximize the investment. If you could share some of the examples that this tool has, kind of examples of benefits that this tool has imparted to your end users or clients across industries, that would be very insightful for our viewers.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Let me see if I can pull some of this together through some examples. So, so what's interesting is that most important decisions, right? You get to a fork in the road. What are you going to do as a company? They require some form of data from SAP, right? If you're an SAP customer, right? Because you've got all this important critical data, your ERP system, right? And it reflects your business and what's happened, what's going to happen, and you're running your business with it, right? So it always comes into consideration, even when you don't think it will. So let me give you an example. So one of our customers, it's a fast-moving consumer goods customer, right? And they have an ESG initiative. So they make a lot of food products, right? One of the things that they make is they do a lot of pre-baked pizzas. And in order to do that, they have a large physical infrastructure of ovens powered by natural gas. So ESG, I want to reduce my energy consumption. And look, they say, well, we know exactly how to measure this because they've got telemetry data that's coming out of these ovens. In fact, it's getting streamed into AWS, and then they pick it up in Redshift, so they can analyze that. That's not a problem. So here's the rub, right? So if you lower the temperature of an oven, they found that they have to change the recipe for the pizza. They actually have to change the ingredients. And once you start doing that, you say, well, ingredients, I'm changing my ingredients. That's supply chain. I guess I need to go look and analyze my supply chain to see if those ingredients are available, to see what the price is. Wow, the price has changed. I need to recalculate my profitability model. It's also a changed recipe. How are my users going to respond? There's a CRM aspect to it. There's a sales aspect to it, a product management aspect to it. And in order to make this decision holistically, they've got to bring this data together. So they got to bring that IoT data together with their SAP data, and with Pyramid, they can do that for the same reason that I mentioned. So, operating really well in SAP natively, operating extremely well in the cloud against these cloud data sources, big data too. That's the direct query. You're querying all this telemetry data. It's not data that you're going to pull out of Redshift and fit into memory and analyze. It's simply not. So this is where it starts to come together as a use case. And then after they pull the views together, they can collaborate. So they can get different departments involved in assessing what decision they're going to make about whether or not to put a new recipe on the market. And if we do that and we use these ingredients and we then are able to adjust our oven temperatures, we'll get XYZ ESG benefit out of it. So I think that to me is just a great real world example. Another one which is it's important, but it's more along the lines of modernization. It's still I think will resonate with people. So another customer of ours, they're a very large multi-channel fashion retailer, and they wanted to modernize their supplier portal, right? So there's a lot of information that's generated through batch reporting. In fact, still probably one of the main ways that data is delivered out to consumers, like we were talking about. It's just batch reporting. And what they recognized is that there would be value in moving away from these static legacy reports, right, to a system for their suppliers that would support guided analysis of data in SAP BW in real time, with the ability to collaborate. Again, the suppliers and the buyers working together. And what they found is that Pyramid was the only analytic platform capable of supporting the scale, both the scale of the number of users, so thousands of suppliers, again with live connections, and then just simply the amount of data in BW. It's certainly one of the largest BW databases, if you would, that we've encountered, and we needed to do some work to get that tuned, but we were able to do that. And so now they've been able to bring that online, give the suppliers access. And here's another thing, and this is the value of breadth in a platform approach, is they can keep their reports. So there are going to be certain suppliers that want to continue to do or continue to receive pre-generated reports through email, and they didn't have to give that up. So, and again, oftentimes what we're finding is as you move to change things for a customer, you need to bring the past forward, because there's a lot of good things that people have done. You got to bring it forward while adopting new capabilities and broadening your use cases. And that's the difference between a platform and a tool. It's quite simple.
Definitely. And both the examples were great, but I really like the first example in the way, like you exactly mentioned, it was very comprehensive in its coverage. It kind of really beautifully brought together everything, right? So that technical aspect of touching upon with various different internal SAP data sources, internal data sources, or cloud platforms, but it also showed like how different functions are involved, right? The temperature of oven going all the way back to supply chain and sourcing and things like that. So that is, I think we discussed it earlier, is the true, I would say, power or capability of an enterprise analytics capability, right? As it kind of brings together the cohesive picture and view and allows you to leverage analytics cross-functionally. So again, a very beautiful example, Dave. Thanks for sharing that. So this brings us to the end of our discussion, but I still have one more question for you before I let you go. So again, like I was mentioning earlier, you have clients across industries, across geographies. based on your experience, what are some of the lessons learned you would have for SAP insiders who I'm pretty sure they were already exploring building these kind of capabilities, and now they are, after watching this video, they are probably more interested in this. What are some of the lessons learned, or like key points that they need to keep in their mind when they embark on building, on the journey of building this kind of capability? What would be some of those points?
It's a great question, and you know, I think everyone who's in this space is constantly, you know, turning things over in their mind. What do I need to focus on? Do I need to focus on the data architecture? Do I need to focus on user enablement? What do I do about governance and security? And then, gee, this stuff is hard to change, and it can get expensive, particularly when you look at all of the effort that goes into it. How do I do this, right? And there's not one right way, but what's a proven way, of course, is to start with a business outcome in mind, right? Is to maybe even a couple different business outcomes, right? So you get some variety, right? But think about what you want to achieve, work backwards from that, you know, into you know, all the way up to you know, from all the way to results, right? So think about, you know, the outcomes you want, the results you want, and back your way into that. At a less abstract level, I think it's really important to get decision making out of Excel. I think that it's run its course. It's very powerful. But if you think about one of the reasons Excel is hard to get rid of is the calculation power and the fact that people can modify data, right? So this is another area where, you know, again, the right environment, the right platform can help you. The reasons for getting out of Excel: collaboration is key. You can't collaborate in Excel. Governance, security, live access to data. These things are becoming essential, right? We have to have these things now to move forward. So I would say, you know, business outcomes, certainly thinking about alternatives to Excel, pulling your finance team along in that journey. It's not as hard as you think, but you just have to have a tool that's capable of doing the analytics they want to do. And then, you know, I guess finally, teamwork, right? You know, once you know the context, what you're trying to achieve, you know, get the subject matter experts involved in the machine learning, right? They'll work with data scientists, but you can take one data scientist and leverage them across many subject matter experts if you have the right platform, right? So it's possible to accelerate the development of models and to forecast different scenarios, right? So why would you want to do this? Well, one, it's a learning process, certainly. And as you go through that process, it becomes more evident what you should do about things like your data architecture. And it's going to provide a business justification for making the additional, you know, infrastructure and integration investments. So at the end of the day, these things are they're all connected, but business outcomes, success, driving sponsorship for the heavy lifting we all need to do to move the landscape forward. I mean, that's what makes it fun, is it's challenging.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, thanks for those takeaways. I think really important and also very realistic, like instances that actually should be kept in mind in the real world versus kind of anything bookish. So like the rest of the discussion, I'm pretty sure SAP insiders will find this answer or this part of the discussion relevant as well. So that brings us to the end of our discussion. Thanks a lot, Dave, for your time. We really appreciate it. And I would love to have you back again on this video series to discuss a related topic in the future.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to seeing you and your colleagues at the SAP Insider Conference, where we'll be attending and presenting.
Thank you.